We have mob lynching, but this step is about professional mob lynching. There are two types of professional mob lynching, but let me talk about mob lynching. Mob lynching is like in Kenya, you find that when you're in a place, you just shout and point at somebody, and that person would be lucky to be alive. People come, there is little or no cross-examination. They just take an action and even kill the person, if not maim. It is bad because, although in some circumstances you find that without mob lynching, because many Kenyans find that the process, the court processes takes long. Sometimes the person, the complainant there is a lot of things that are expected from the complainant than what the complainant is willing to do. There are also cases where although few, where it is alleged that money exchanges hands at various levels before the pronunciation of that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about professional mob lynching. There are two types of professional mob lynching. I'll start with the one that I don't want to talk about. We have some people who are professional. You find that every time there is a mob lynching, he is there. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mob lynching by professional bodies. By professional bodies, I have two examples, although there are many. The first example is what happened in Athi River. In Athi River, there was a case between a boda rider and a police officer from the administration police service. What actually happened was that this police officer, the boda fellow, had evidence to convict this police officer. So this police officer, the first thing he did, there's a time he really beat up this complainant, and the complainant had a plaster on his hand, and then the police officer came up again and said, I had charged the person with riding on the wrong side of it. I mean, some of these things that cannot make sense. So when this complainant was taken to court, he said that how can I drive on the wrong side? How can I ride a motorcycle on the wrong side of the road when I have a plaster? Such things. And then the case was, so it was obvious that this police officer was after this person. So the hunter became the hunted, and it turned out that the AP was charged with the misuse of power. And for reasons that do not make sense, he decided that the best way to do so was to eliminate this boda rider. The boda rider, as you can see, is a poor person, so he went to a human rights organization for assistance. The human rights organization offered him a lawyer. So on the day that the AP was to appear in court, the lawyer, Willis Kimani, his client, who is a boda person, plus they took a taxi. So one time when they were leaving the law courts with a taxi, they were followed and the three were killed. The taxi driver, the lawyer, and the boda person. They were thrown into a river at Kilimambogo. I saw, you see, these people who are lawyers, when they are in the law school, they are taught that you can, I mean, even if the devil was to drop, everybody has a right to be represented by a lawyer if he so wishes. They are even told that even if the devil, Satan himself, came down and appeared before court and he required services of a lawyer, he is entitled to a lawyer. So what happened in this case is that before the people were arrested, there was demonstration by lawyers, which is okay because they were doing it in favor of their colleague. Then after that, the police officers who participated in killing were all arrested. And they looked for a lawyer. A lawyer came and using that section that even the devil himself, Satan, if he requires legal assistance, he'd be given. But then they were saying that they do not want to hear of any lawyer in Kenya taking up the case. First of all, if you do that, these killers can even have a constitutional interpretation of their case and go away with it by saying that they were not given a free chance to represent themselves the way they were. The second case is the case where Honorable Moses Kuria, the Cabinet Secretary for Trade, had talked ill of pressmen and specifically Nation Media Group. And what happened next was all the media groups were now against Kuria. They were even turning and making mockery of him or whatever. I want to tell the lawyers and journalists and others, when one of you is attacked or anything, act as if the person who attacked was not. Because what we are trying to give us here is that some professions are untouchables. I want to thank the medical people. You remember there was a girl who was training to be a doctor somewhere in Rift Valley, I think Elret. Her boyfriend came all the way from Central, and in the presence of people, took out a weapon, killed her in the presence of everybody. And civilians who were around turned against him and thoroughly beat him. But the doctors in that hospital, where this girl was doing practicals so before she could graduate as a doctor, took her body to the mortuary of the same hospital and took her former fiancé and treated him just like anybody else. If professional organizations are to turn out to protect their own people, it means that you cannot beat up a police officer. Utakimbizwa police, utaharakishwa. You cannot harm a judicial officer, a judge, because when you appear in court, so what I would ask other professions is to follow what the medical personnel in that Rift Valley hospital did. They took the girl whom they were training to be a doctor, who was just about to graduate as a doctor. And you know, doctors go for longer than other degrees. They took her to their own mortuary. And when the mob descended on this fellow and beat him thoroughly, leaving him for dead, they treated him just like any other person would have been. Now, if they would have said, now that you have killed a medical person like us, we are not going to treat, that is bad. That is bad for the journalist, and that is bad for the lawyers. Professions that are supposed to be in the front line.